Hello and welcome to the formal review. Today, we will be having a very special episode. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the formal review. This is season 3 episode 16 and I thank you all for joining me once again. Now I know it's been a while since I did a full movie review on like a new film, but it's just hard to find films that I really want to watch, especially with COVID. And frankly, like I can just rewatch a lot of old films and enjoy that because it's just a fun time, honestly. But if there is a movie that you do want me to talk about of an older movie and I can rewatch it, or if there's a new one, just let me know, hit me up on social media. You can just talk to me on there and I will watch a film and will review it. Now I did do a written review for Backseat Directors on The Old Guard and you can go check that out on their website. In short, I did enjoy it and I've been watching a lot of movies, honestly, just almost every evening watching a different movie, watching series. It's just been a lot of fun. You can always follow me on social media and see what I'm watching. I'm also on Letterboxd. You can kind of see my record where I'm on, what I've been watching and everything, and it's at the formal review. It's a lot of movies. I mean, frankly, it's just because I love movies and I love rewatching these old movies and seeing them honestly in a new way with my new space and the new system. It's honestly almost like a re-up of what is in theaters, and frankly it's just been so much fun that I can't even really describe it. Even if the theaters near me, which they haven't, open again, I honestly don't see myself going back and watching older movies because I know there's a lot of theaters opening and they're showing these older films, and I'm sure that those are fun experiences and I'm sure they're all safe and everything, and I'm not trying to, I guess, get on the point of discussing the safety measures because I don't know what the theaters are going to do in my area, frankly, but it may not matter because if they're just going to show old movies, I can rewatch the same movies at home and get the exact same experience, if not better. So I'm not going to go out until they start releasing new movies, and then I would definitely venture out and definitely do that. Unless they start doing some of the older movies in 4DX, then maybe, because that's frankly the only thing that's potentially better, but I doubt they're going to do that because it requires a lot of technology and stuff that only newer films are going to have. So I really can't wait to experience that again. But until they start reopening, one, safely, because I don't know what they're doing in my area, but also a extent of not releasing older films, and I'll just stay home and be safe. And frankly, not a lot of people are going to be going anyway, so it's not like I'm going to be getting a huge enjoyment out of it the same way like watching Avengers Endgame or whatnot and getting that huge cheering and stuff that you only can get in theaters. We're not going to have that. So that to me is something that you can only get in the theaters, but if we're not going to have that because of capacity, to me it's almost a kind of a pointless venture because again, I can enjoy the same movies at home. After saying all that, this is going to be another retrospective review. Now, this episode is the 4th in the monthly series that is looking back at history. In each episode, I, along with a special guest, will be looking back in history at a specific moment and a movie that surrounds that event. And neither the event, the movie, or the guest will be revealed until the episode drops, and it could happen at any time of the month, so you have to follow me on social media to see when it does. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, the Gram, Letterboxd, and the handle is all the same. It's at the formal review. So this month of July marks the 80th anniversary of the Green Lantern character. Now, this isn't a specific event in history like the past 2 episodes have been, in the sense of a huge event like a war aspect. However, this is a very significant event, especially in comic book, because Green Lantern is one that is known as being one of the favorites. So as such, my guest and I will be looking at the 2011 film Green Lantern starring Ryan Reynolds, and I will be joined by a very good colleague of mine, Mikey Hidalgo. Mikey and I met over Twitter, over our love of film. We have been interacting for a little over 3 years, I think. We may not always agree on things, but our love of film and comic books kind of keeps us talking. So, hey Mikey, man, how's it going?
Doing good, man.
Thanks for coming on. Do appreciate it, because I know like within our kind of Take 4 group, you're kind of the comic book person, so that's kind of like why I wanted to have you on for this episode. I think it'd bring a good insight to why this is kind of a significant event and kind of a movie that, even though it gets hated among a lot of people, we could kind of just for fun go back and look at. Before we get into the movie, to introduce yourself to everyone out there, how did you start like getting into comics and why do you like them so much?
All right, so when I was a little kid, I started watching the Batman animated series that came out in 92. And when I would go with my mom to the grocery store, there was a little comic book stand, and they had the comic book that ran with that television show, The Batman Adventures. And so my mom would buy me one every week. We would go until I basically had them all. I have a big box. And so that's where I started reading those comic books. And then as I got older, I found comic book shops and different things and started exploring more of DC, and really all stemmed from that animated series. And once that animated series went into the Justice League show, that's when I started reading about more superheroes and all that. And fun to immerse myself in a world and go on adventures with superheroes. And as I got older, the stories got more mature, so I was kind of able to grow up with comics and just been doing it ever since.
Yeah, I'm actually on the same boat as you. I mean, I know we've talked offline, like the animated show and how that sparked my interest too as a kid.
Right.
I didn't actually buy any comics until like later on, because for me, like as a kid, like I didn't want to spend like my money on those comics because I couldn't do that. But like I would go to my local public library and they had comic books there.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so I was able to read a bunch of random comics. They weren't like, I guess, like sequential. So like unless it was like a story all in one,
right.
I got to know like Flash and his rivalry with like Zoom. And like that's also when I first then found a book and I rented it. It was like the Death of Superman story, and I read that. I honestly found like everything at my local library.
Nice.
And then obviously growing up with like continuing to watch the animated series, obviously Batman Beyond and Justice League. And so we've like obviously talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very more of how just loving it from that end. And then back then I was kind of silent about it because comics weren't cool and stuff back then, I guess, and superheroes just weren't the thing. So I kind of didn't talk about it as much with people. And then when I got to college, I kind of interacted with a few other people who were into it a little bit more, and I got to learn about the DC like films, and that's kind of how I got into like the animated movies a lot more. Yeah, because I didn't watch those as much. And my buddy Tommy, who I've talked about a few other animated movies, he actually introduced me to like a Flashpoint movie, because I didn't really know about it until college. And then you've seen that movie?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so like that movie kind of like blew my mind, and then I've obviously got more into it and looking up like the comics. And then some of those animated movies are really good. You have like Red Hood, which is one of the best, I think, personally. Yeah, there's just a bunch of those. Anyway, so for me, like I think my favorite DC superhero is Batman, just because of where I started. Right. Based on your story, I would guess the same thing.
You would guess correct. I started with Batman. My mom has pictures of me as a baby with a 1989 Michael Keaton Batman doll. It wasn't even an action figure. Like it was like a 12-inch doll. And I just always loved Batman. And, in the animated series, obviously pushed that even further. And the deeper stuff, reading like the darker stuff from like the 80s and the crazy stuff that he went through in the 90s. Like I've just been able to, like I said, grow up with Batman and even Batman Beyond. And I was really into that when I was a kid, because it was like, oh, Batman's younger, Batman's cooler. Yeah. So yeah, Batman's my favorite. But I mean, I love all DC and all their characters, and I think their stories have so much depth to them, and it's so much to follow with each individual character that they bring to the table. So
yeah, I with Batman, I remember having Batman action figures. It was either the Burton one or the one right after
Schumacher.
Yeah, but not Batman versus Robin. This Batman had a utility belt type of like tension thing. You pulled it out and then like retract into it, so like he would use it as a grappling hook type of thing. That's kind of how I had it. And then I had the animated series Batmobile.
Nice.
Which I think as a kid, that was one of the coolest toys I ever had. And then because we moved around a lot after that, it got donated.
Oof.
Or we just obviously didn't, but which I regret now, because I would love to have that again, because I don't even know how much those things are worth now. But
I have boxes and boxes of Batman, the animated series toys from all the movies from the 90s. I have one box dedicated to Batmobiles. I had the Batman Beyond one. I had so many toys, and I have them all still. So, my kid better like Batman, because those are the only toys he's going to get.
Yeah, I wish I had it. All I got is like random Batman stuff now that I've been just collecting over the years, but nothing like that, though I wish I had that now. Yeah. I try to keep an eye out for it when I go like to a random thrift store, see if somebody's gave it away or something, but I haven't found anything yet. Going into because obviously there's been a lot of iterations of these characters. Which version of them would you say is your favorite? I mean, we've obviously talked about the animated series, but obviously the live action movies, you have the Nolan version, version, you have the newer animated films, you have Titans, you have Young Justice, and the Arrowverse.
My favorite would have to be the DC animated universe. I think that stays the most true to the comic book versions of these characters, except for, I don't know why, Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, who created these shows, I don't know why they have this obsession with making Batman and Batgirl have a thing. That's weird to me. But aside from that, the characters and their motivations, I think the DC animated universe stayed the most true to those characters. So that would probably be my favorite iteration. I love reading Elseworld comics, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, or Superman Red Sun, or, the Injustice series. I really enjoy that because you can do whatever you want with these characters, and you can take them in places that, what if Superman was just sick of it and wanted to take over the world because he feels like he can do it better? Like, that's so intriguing to me. So I really love like the Injustice stuff. But to say like what's my favorite to who these characters are and true to their origins and whatnot, I would have to say the DC animated universe just kind of kept it as good as it could be. And it's easy to follow. You can tell somebody to watch that and they can start there and they can go to Justice League or Batman Beyond, or, even shows like Static Shock are technically in that universe. So there's a lot for people to find in that. So I would say that, but I love it all.
I love the Static Shock shows. I forgot about those. I really like that show a lot. I thought it was really cool. Especially when he shows up in that one Justice League episode.
Last time I saw you, you were too young to drive. Look good for a man your age.
Miracles of modern medicine. 65 is the new 30.
Yeah, when they go to the future and...
Surprised to see me? A little. I'm more surprised that I lived so long.
Batman, Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, Batman. Or have you met?
Not now.
Great. What did they used to call it? Stereo?
Yeah, that's such a great episode.
Yeah, I love that episode too. Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. I think that, like you said, they do keep it very true to the story. I would agree with you. I do with the Batgirl Batman thing. I thought the allusion to it in Batman Beyond was enough.
Yeah.
Dick finally got fed up living in Batman's shadow. He decided to leave. He was hurt when I chose to stay behind with Bruce.
As his partner? His girlfriend?
On the street, it was like ballet. We were the perfect duo.
I guess I get that from a working environment type of thing, even though I don't really know the age difference. It's kind of odd when you think about it.
Well, here's the thing is I don't mind Batgirl maybe having a crush on Batman and like just leave it at that. But you got to think about it. Like, this is also Jim Gordon's kid and he knows this. Like, this dude you've been working with for years. It just doesn't make sense for the character.
Because then you also think with Dick, he's like about the same age as Barbara,
yeah,
right?
I think,
And they were obviously a significant relationship. And then Bruce is at least 20 years older or so than Dick.
And that's like his kid,
or at least
too.
Yeah, very weird. Yeah, that was one of the weird, obviously, part. And I'm assuming you're talking about the Killing Joke thing.
Oh God,
in that movie.
No. I'm in this because of you. I did what you wanted. I made it work.
Because that's so dumb. I don't know why they had to add that.
So like, I think at least with that movie, they were just trying to not make Barbara this kind of, use him like in the original comic, like how they used her as the tool for the story, and they were trying to be progressive in that sense. But the way they use the storyline is kind of still not good.
No.
Just from a storytelling aspect, like you could have done anything else, honestly.
Yeah.
It just wasn't good. All right. Anyway, off of that topic, going back to just DC in general, like I do really enjoy just a bunch of the other stuff, but I think, like you said, the DCAU is definitely the best starting places. And I know you know this when it comes to our group, and I don't know 100% where you stand on it, but at least for me, whenever somebody asks me like the best Batman film, and I don't a movie with Batman in it, I mean a true Batman film, theatrical one, not any of these straight to demand or whatever, is Mask of the Phantasm. And frankly, to the other two guys in our group, not trying to deny that Dark Knight or Batman Begins are bad films, but to me, they're not quote unquote Batman movies. They're movies that have Batman in it. And I see a disparity between the two, and I don't know if they see that as much as I do, and I don't 100% know where you stand on it, but that's just my opinion.
Right. I mean, I love 2 out of 3 of Christopher Nolan's Batman movies.
Yeah, that's why I only mentioned those two.
And we've had these conversations within our group that the Batman that Christopher Nolan created isn't, I mean, he's Batman, but he's not, you know, he doesn't have the same type of motivations. And this was Ryan's argument that when I have a problem with where the story goes and where Batman goes in The Dark Knight Rises, I don't think Batman would just give up. I don't think he would just disappear for 8 years. That's not Batman to me. And, you know, Ryan's argument was like, okay, well, this isn't like the comic Batman. This is Nolan's Batman. So it's like, okay, so boom, you said it. That's not comic Batman. The DC animated universe Batman is as close to comic Batman as I can find outside of the comic books. So I don't have the same problem as they do because Mask of the Phantasm was released in theaters. It is a Batman movie and I love it. It's one of my favorite animated movies. The score is great. I think obviously the voice cast has always been great in that, and it's one of my favorite Batman movies. It's so good. The twist, the story, you know, I'm more on your side than not on your side, but I mean, I see where they're coming from, but like, I like the argument that we always bring up. Okay, Spider-Verse is one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. It probably is my favorite Spider-Man movie. Can you call it a Spider-Man movie because it's animated? I think you can. Some people are like, no, you can't. So it's just where you fall on the line of animated versus live action. Can you call one a movie and one not a movie?
Yeah.
But if it got a theatrical release, it's a movie to me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It wasn't like one of those whatever fandom events now where they release it, because Killing Joke, they did a fandom event where like it was like one night in theaters. That's not even what Mask of the Phantasm was. Mask of the Phantasm had like a theatrical release.
I went and saw it in theaters.
Like you did? Oh, dang. I definitely didn't, but I don't think my parents would have allowed me back then. My parents were a little bit more trained on what I could watch.
Yeah, it's funny because my parents were very strict on everything. Like I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter for the first couple films because it was like, oh, it's witchcraft and whatnot. But like Batman, my parents were always just like, yeah, he can watch Batman. It's Batman. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, mine's more on if it's too violent, nah, you couldn't watch it.
I see.
That was kind of like any fighting or anything like that. Like Saturday cartoons, like that's fine because it's Saturday morning cartoons, like whatever. But movies, it's like, not that's a lot of violence or something like that. But that led me to sneak into R-rated movies before I was 18. So it is what it is. So in July of 1940, Green Lantern first appeared in the golden age of comic books in an All-American Comics number 16 published by All American Publications, which is one of the 3 companies that would eventually form DC Comics. The first Green Lantern's real name was Alan Scott. Scott was a railroad engineer who, after a railroad crash, came into possession of a magic lantern which spoke to him and said it would bring power. From this, he crafted a magic ring which gave him a wide variety of powers, and the limitations of this ring is that he would have to charge it every 24 hours by touching it to the lantern. Since then, there has been a numerous amount of characters who have been called Green Lantern. One of the most famous human versions of the character is Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was introduced in between September and October in 1959, and interestingly, his appearance was originally patterned by actor Paul Newman.
Oh, I got a hunch, fat man. I got a hunch it's me from...
His powers were basically the same as Scott's, but Jordan received his ring from a dying alien and was commissioned as an officer of the Green Lantern Corps, which is an interstellar law enforcement agency overseen by the Guardians of the Universe on Oa. His uniform was also completely changed to what we know as the Green Lantern outfit today. There was also then a guy Gardner, who was kind of the backup lantern to Hal, as he was just another alternative for that dying alien to give, but Hal was closer. Then the other famous Green Lantern is John Stewart, who initially was an architect, but then retconned into being this ex-Marine who was born in Detroit. So over the course of these 80 years, the series and the creators have received several awards, including the 1961 Alley Award for Best Adventure Hero with Own Book, and the Academy of Comic Book Art Shazam Award for Best Continuing Feature in 1970, and Best Individual Story in 1970 and 1971. Then in 2011, IGN placed Green Lantern as the number 7 best comic book hero of all time. And over time, they have come up with one of the most iconic phrases of the DC universe, in the sense of, honestly, to my knowledge, when it comes to a lot of the DC comics, there's not very many with oaths. Green Lantern is one of those, and their oath is, in brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's light beware my power. Green Lantern's light. that to me just gives chills. To me, that's one of the most iconic like oaths in all of DC, and I love that because it just shows to me when it comes to the Green Lantern character, it's just really a emphasis on how Green Lantern is about a much bigger universe, not just planet Earth. And I always loved that about Green Lantern, and frankly, that's why I wanted to talk about this movie, because to me, Green Lantern means a lot, and it is a really powerful character. That is something to me that really speaks out about Green Lantern, because this is something that not only is about planet Earth, because you think of Batman, you think of Superman, they are protectors of planet Earth. You have Flash, you have all of these entities of heroes protecting Earth. Now, Green Lanterns have that, but they can be called to these multiple universes, and that's something that not a lot of superheroes have. And honestly, that's something that's so mind-blowing to me, and that's why this is so significant. That's why I like Green Lantern as a character, is because of just this phrase. It really speaks to how vast the Green Lantern character and the Green Lantern Guardian and the Green Lantern Corps, there's so much there for a film to be made about them, and frankly, this just honestly should be shown on the big screen. Now they have the Snyder Cut of Justice League and everything coming out on HBO, but focusing it more on Green Lantern, they have that new series that they're developing. I'm not sure if they stopped it. So what are your thoughts on that, and who is your favorite Green Lantern?
So the first Green Lantern I was ever introduced to was Jon Stewart because of the Justice League animated show. It's funny because that show, as a kid, you're like, oh, these are the characters. This is who they are. The Flash is Wally West. Green Lantern is Jon Stewart. And then you read into the comic books, and then you learn, there's two Flashes before Wally West. Barry Allen was actually the main Flash, and who's this Hal Jordan guy? My favorite Green Lantern, after reading all, would have to, I really enjoy Hal Jordan, but I also like Kyle Rayner, and I do like the new Green Lanterns they're doing, Simon Baz, Jessica Cruz. It's, just like everybody else, I don't think anybody likes Guy Gardner. But I think I'll just go, original, and just, well, not even original, because there's, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I think I'll just go with Hal Jordan. I think he has a bunch of different storylines, and he's the most prominent Green Lantern, and he's really come back from all the crazy places they took him in the 90s and early 2000s. So I think I will stick with Hal Jordan as my favorite Green Lantern.
Clearly, you should never do this stuff without me. You end up with crap all over yourself.
As for the HBO series, I was excited. I still am excited about it because TV isn't TV anymore. The stuff that they can produce for a TV show, they put the budget in. You look at shows like The Mandalorian, you look at shows like Stranger Things. There's movie quality there. It's not TV anymore. So Green Lantern is obviously something that's going to have a lot of special effects, a lot of visuals, but they can do it if they put the money into it. It might be like a Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart kind of going around the galaxy together and solving crimes. Like, that would be really cool, and that'd be something that is geared more towards an episodic thing rather than just a 2.5 hour movie. So I'm excited for it if they put the money into it, and it doesn't even have to be connected. You can make it just a Green Lantern show, just leave it at that, and I'd be fine with that.
I think I agree with you on that. I'm excited if the effort is put in, and it's funny that you mentioned crossing over. I think personally at this point, especially with how Snyder is taking everything on HBO, I think they're going to try to do that eventually, even though it wasn't fully his. We know that the Green Lanterns exist in the Snyderverse.
He had plans for him.
So at this point, I think it's almost a missed opportunity if they don't do that. But I think you're right in the sense that they got to be willing to put in the money and invest into it, because you're right. If you don't, some of the visuals are going to look really bad. And we'll kind of go into that in a little bit, I'm pretty sure. But I think that, it could be good. I'm hesitant based on a lot of things. I think it has a lot of opportunity for some cool stories, like you mentioned. And similarly, when it comes to my favorite Green Lantern, my first, obviously, based on our conversation, is Jon Stewart. I'm traditional in that sense. To this day, Jon Stewart to me is my favorite. I just really like his story, and honestly, the romance that they build in that, I thought it was just a lot of fun. And I don't know, it's just, I invested so much into that character, it's hard for me to, separate from it. Hal Jordan, to me, some of the stories that I read or saw on the animated stuff, that it wasn't that appealing to me. Not to say he's a bad character, character. It wasn't my thing. And I feel like, yeah, similarly, I really do like their backgrounds of Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz. Yeah. I like the idea of them, especially Simon Baz, just because he's Lebanese, if I'm remembering correctly.
Let me see.
And he was, where was it? I think he came up during the September 11th attack, or like he was born then, or something like that. I don't know. His character just has such a lot of compelling aspects to him that I'm kind of intrigued about. I just haven't had the time to really look into him.
He's got a dope look, too.
Yeah, his mask, it looks like a combination of like a Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, to say the least. Now, so Green Lantern is a 2011 film starring Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, Peter Sarsgaard, Mark Strong, Angela Bassett, and Tim Robbins, with Martin Campbell directing a script by Greg Berlanti and comic book writers Michael Green and Mark Guggenheim, which then was rewritten by Michael Goldenberg. The film is about Hal Jordan, who is a test Air Force pilot who is selected to become the first human member of the Green Lantern Corps by a dying alien, and he is given a ring that grants him superpowers and must confront Palatrax, who threatens to upset the balance of the power in the universe. Now, before we get into this film too much, here's some quick background of the film. So in 1997, Warner Brothers approached comic book fan / writer Kevin Smith to script a Green Lantern film. He turned it down. So then the studio then looked to Quentin Tarantino, which obviously didn't happen. It then went into development hell until about 2004, when there was a script for Jack Black to star, which was then dropped because of poor fan reaction from the internet. Frankly, that sounds hilarious to me, but also don't think it would work. So then David S. Goyer was offered a chance to write and direct either a Green Lantern film or a Flash film after Warner Bros. Was very, very impressed by his screenplay on Batman Begins. But obviously nothing really came of that. So then fast forward to 2009, and there was rumors of Bradley Cooper, Ryan Reynolds, Justin Timberlake, and Jared Leto to star. Obviously then, Ryan Reynolds was cast as the starring character. And at the time, Reynolds was most famous for his Van Wilder role, but had also starred in Blade Trinity, Amityville Horror, Just Friends, Smoking Aces, Definitely Maybe, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and The Proposal. Ryan Reynolds obviously has essentially looked down upon this movie, as a lot of people have.
God, that's beautiful. You're welcome, Canada.
But at this point, I think his most famous role is Deadpool.
Oh, hello. I know, right? Whose did I have to fondle to get my very own movie? I can't tell you, but it does rhyme with Pulverine,
which I think is one of his best roles. And I think after that, for me, one of my favorite movies with him in it is this movie called Buried. Have you ever seen that?
You know what? I've never seen it. That actually came up on, I think I was on Hulu or something, and I was about to watch it, and I just kind of skipped it. But now I'm going to give it a shot.
I think it's really good. I mean, it's actually, I think, one of Ryan Reynolds' best general acting, not Ryan Reynolds act, for lack of a better thing, I guess, because Deadpool, and honestly somewhat in Green Lantern, there's that Ryan Reynolds dip, which is almost in every single one of his roles that he's famous for. But one of my first movies that I ever saw him in, and it still sticks in my mind of whenever I think of a Ryan Reynolds role, is Blade Trinity.
Nice.
When he's captured and they're putting in the silver into the air for the vampires, he makes that huge explanation.
You see that tickle that you're feeling in the back of your throat right now? That's atomized colloidal silver. It's being pumped through the building's air conditioning system, you juggling thunder cunt.
I don't know. I think of that saying just every time I think of Ryan Reynolds, even though it's obviously not family friendly at all, but the way it's delivered is just hilarious to me. Those are like my favorite Ryan Reynolds roles in movies. What are yours?
So obviously I'd have to agree that my favorite stuff from him is probably Deadpool. I really do think that Ryan Reynolds was born to play that character. He's what Deadpool is. He pulls that off perfectly. Now, one of the first, I mean, you know, you have like the Van Wilders and whatnot, but one of my favorite movies that I remember him from, and this just because it's such a movie of the time, but it takes me back to being a teenager and remembering watching this was
Voting isn't just going to the polls anymore on Election Day. Options like early voting, mail-in voting, and ballot drop boxes are available to more voters and are growing in popularity. How to Vote is a tool created by Democracy Works, and it breaks down the options your state offers by forecasting a ballot, empowering you to decide where and when to vote. Democracy works best when we all vote, but misinformation and confusion about election procedures have resulted in low voter turnout. How to Vote takes the guesswork out of the voting process. It is easy to use reviews and helps folks from all over the country overcome many of the process barriers to voting. It is committed to helping you vote no matter what. You can use the How to Vote tool to sign up for election reminders, see what's on your ballot, get step-by-step assistance requesting your mail ballot, explore your options for returning your mail-in ballot, check your voter registration status, and find your local polling site, and make sure that you have an appropriate ID to bring with you. Decide when and where you'll vote this year at howto.vote.
Waiting.
Oh yeah,
that's a Ryan Reynolds movie if you ever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All his Ryan Reynolds shtick all over that movie.
First thing, you ever worked in a restaurant before? Actually, yeah, it doesn't really matter anyway. You know, everything that Dan wants me to show you, all that can be learned in a few hours. But you want to work here in this restaurant, I really think that you need to ask yourself one simple question. How do you feel about frontal male nudity? What the heck? Pretty up, huh?
That movie made me appreciate or not be poor to servers.
You know what? That movie made me want to work in a restaurant, and I ended up working in two.
You didn't do anything like less extreme?
I mean, I don't want to say out loud on recordings that can be found, but just, just say that we have fun.
Okay.
Actually, I also really liked him in Detective Pikachu. When I heard that Ryan Reynolds was going to be voicing Pikachu, I was like, oh man, it just didn't click in my head. But watching the movie, I really liked him in that movie. He was still Ryan Reynolds, but they kind of honed it in a little bit. I actually really liked that movie.
Bringing Detective Pikachu to the big screen is a privilege that I don't take lightly. Every second of my energy is spent making this character come alive with the same exacting standards that the most discerning fans would have come to expect.
Yeah, I like that movie too. It's exactly what you expect it to be. Obviously, it's not raunchy Ryan Reynolds, but weirdly works.
Right?
This is what a Frenchman would call caliente fiesta.
That's not French.
No, we're not doing that. Fine, I'll walk. I'm trying to get in 100,000 steps this hour.
This is a character that's kind of cute, but if in the Pokemon, the animated stuff, Pikachu's not just cute. He's kind of has his own attitude.
He's got some sass.
Ryan Reynolds works with that. And it's not something that you would think off the top of your head when you think of who could voice Pikachu, but then seeing it, this works weirdly perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I like that movie is just, it's not anything great, but I could just put that on and just enjoy it if I'm doing laundry or something.
Yeah.
And just
it's a good background movie.
It's fun. Yeah. So talking about Deadpool, now that it's owned by Disney, what do you think's going to happen there? Do you think it's going to be more family? I mean, I can't see it, but I think that's such a weird thing for Disney to be on, that type of R rating.
Right.
The MCU is obviously very, very different. I don't know how it's going to work. I mean, Ryan Reynolds obviously is going to push back a lot, but I just don't know how it's going to go. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. I think that Disney's smart. I think, the House of Mouse don't play. They're not dumb. They know that the Deadpool movies make money. Aside from Passion of the Christ, the highest grossing R-rated movie ever. And I don't think that they're dumb enough to mess that up. You go to an MCU movie and you don't see, the Disney castle in front of it. The only people that know that Disney owns Marvel, are people that are kind of into this sort of stuff. Or, Disney's doing their stuff at Disneyland, their Marvel Land or whatever, Avengers HQ or whatever it's called. But they don't advertise that, oh, this is a Disney-owned property at the beginning. And now that Disney has also rebranded, 20th Century Fox to 20th Century Pictures, I believe that's what they're calling it now, I think that they'll just make a Deadpool movie and just let Ryan Reynolds produce it how he did the last ones and leave that alone and don't put any Disney name in front of it. Have it 20th Century Pictures presents, because they own it. Yeah, but I think they'll let it go. Now, if they're trying to integrate Deadpool into an MCU picture, this is where it might get tricky, but I think that they could have some fun with it. Let Deadpool be Deadpool, but censor him. Obviously, Deadpool's the character that can break the fourth wall. So then if he knows he's being censored, he can just he and the audience can have a bunch of fun of him trying to beat the bleep or something and trying to get his cuss words out, but he constantly gets censored. I think that could be fun. They can keep it PG-13 that way. And anybody who knows a Deadpool movie, obviously don't have it the whole thing because they still want to keep it family friendly, but that little portion that you can give Deadpool, I think it could work.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing because Disney has taken a hold of so many properties now, and it's that them having Star Wars, obviously that's I think getting put on hold right now because of what happened, but they've done so many things that weirdly are some things that aren't true to characters in general, and they haven't had a flawless track record.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So I'm interested to see it, but I'm very hesitant about it because they own pretty much everything now. I think like the only ones they don't are like, I think Hulk fully, and obviously, or do they own Hulk fully now? I don't really, like they don't.
I don't think they have the rights to a Hulk solo film. I think they can use the character, but if he's the main title character, I think that's still owned by Universal.
Spider-Man obviously is that joint thing, which arguably isn't true to the Spider-Man, but that's another discussion. Right. But anyway, yeah, like it's just a weird situation and I'm hesitant. But you're right, they could just do it 20th Century Presents. Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, going in Green Lantern, this being not too long ago, obviously this film came out in 2011. Yep. Obviously that's about 9 years ago. But what do you remember about like when you first saw the trailer? Were you excited for it? I know I do remember being kind of skeptical of that CGI prior, but I was like, okay, whatever. I'll go see it. It's a superhero movie at the end of the day. I think I'll enjoy some of it, and we'll get into what I thought about it then and now later. But what do you remember about first time seeing it?
I remember being very excited when they announced, hey, they're making a Green Lantern movie. I remember being excited when they said Ryan Reynolds is going to be Hal Jordan, because I thought that, Hal Jordan is this kind of, cocky, sure of himself, but dude that messes up a lot kind of character. So I think Ryan Reynolds can pull that off. I remember being very wary when I saw, I think it was Comic-Con, I'm not sure, but I saw, a magazine of the first images of the suit, and I didn't like it. I still don't like it. But full transparency, when they released the first images of the Batman suit for The Dark Knight, I didn't like that suit either. I didn't like all the paneling in it. I thought it just looked weird. I've come around to that suit, once I saw the movie and I saw how they made it, practical and the real life kind of reasoning for it, but I didn't like it when I saw it. But I was excited for the movie, disappointed when I left the movie, but not for all the reasons that a lot of people are. The costume and the suit, don't like it, but that's not what ruins a movie for me, Yeah. For me, it was more just the potential of what a Green Lantern movie could be, and that it ended up just like Fantastic Four, the Rise of the Silver Surfer. They're just fighting a big cloud at the end of the day. Knowing like where the Parallax character, how that it's actually a thing that Hal Jordan became when he went mad with power, and that they just kind of twisted it to be a giant space cloud. That's what was most disappointing about the movie. But I still don't hate the movie. I watched it the other day just getting ready for this, and there's a lot of stuff in there that I found myself just, being able to, it's a comic book movie, it's a superhero movie, and I can enjoy it for that. They're not all great, but they're not all terrible either.
Yeah, I thought some of the acting wasn't terrible in this. I forgot that Mark, because I rewatched it earlier this week too, and I forgot that Mark Strong was in this, and I thought he did a decent job as Sinestro.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him more as Sinestro.
I thought that was pretty good, and like him being a villain, I mean, we saw how he was in Shazam. He's probably done other villains that I'm just not remembering right now, but he could be a very compelling villain.
Yeah, he was good in
and like you
Sherlock
said,
Holmes, he's a bad guy in there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. And I did like just seeing these other lanterns. I liked everything that happened outside of planet Earth. I really enjoyed.
Same.
I thought that they created like a really cool thing there, and all the different lanterns, I liked the voicing of it. I thought Michael Clark Duncan was Kilowog, because I liked Kilowog a lot in the animated series, and I thought that Mike Clark Duncan was a very good voice cast of that, and I thought that was cool. And it was hilarious to me to see Taika Waititi in this movie, because I completely forgot that he was in this movie, especially where he is now. It was weird to me to see him again, and I thought the score wasn't awful. I thought James Newton Howard did all right, compelling enough. But my biggest problem with this movie, I don't think Ryan Reynolds works.
Okay.
Because I think, like we talked about it, like that Ryan Reynolds shtick, I don't think that works for Hal Jordan.
Okay.
Because there's some random humor lines, like they try for jokes at that.
Watch your back. It's impossible.
It feels just misused. I'm not saying he was bad. I just think the character didn't work for him. I don't like the CGI and the imagery of this movie. Yeah. I think at best it's video game quality, and that's almost talking down to video games. It's weird because I was looking up like what other movies came out this year, and we have like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Thor, Captain America: The First Adventure. How did this movie get this poor of CGI to me? I don't know, but it didn't work, and especially the cloud stuff at the end. Yeah. Some of that looked like 1990s Twister footage. Yeah. I also thought some of the writing wasn't great. The family thing that they try to put in, like, the birthday party scene, goes and visits, I think it's like his nephew or something.
Are you scared?
My job not to be.
I'm glad you're okay.
And then that nephew is never really seen ever again. See. Why was that scene in there? And then the romance, I thought was pretty garbage. Even though in real life, like they're married now and everything, like it led to good things. But on screen, I didn't get it.
Right.
Barely saw like chemistry between them. And
didn't get a chance to say goodbye. Are you okay?
You saved my life. How? How?
How did you know it was me?
What do you mean? I've known you my whole life. I've seen you naked. You don't think I would recognize you because I can't see your cheekbones?
And then the one scene that I just legitimately paused and rewound at the end.
How?
Yeah.
Can you take off the mask?
The mask just weirdly fades away.
Yeah.
And it just looks so bad to me. And I'm like, really? This is what we're doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, that to me, that was like the things I didn't like about it. Going back, like you said, it wasn't as bad as I remember it, and I do think it is hated on more than it really needs to be. I get why people hate it, but it's okay. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. There's definitely other films out there that are definitely worse, but
I'm in the same boat. I think the kind of the social media influence and people just constantly putting this movie down, and then even, you know, Ryan Reynolds himself putting it down in other movies like Deadpool and whatnot, it kind of puts a sour taste in your mouth, but then you go back and watch it and you're like, you know, it's not even that bad. It's watchable.
Yeah. If anything, it's like you can watch it and laugh at the things that are like bad. I can watch it and just love how bad it is, in the sense, like, I mean, we watch how many of those movies like with The Rock that are almost the exact same storyline, and they're so outrageously bad. Like, you can watch this movie and even those things that are bad, like, I can laugh at how bad they are. So it ends up still being a relatively enjoyable experience. And frankly, just looking back, like you said, you can see things that are decent about this movie. There was like a lot of potential there, but it wasn't executed in the best way.
Yeah.
But what didn't you like about it?
I think the main thing that I didn't like was, like I said earlier, the potential of the character and just what you could do with, you know, you have a guy who's wearing a ring on his hand that can make anything, can do anything, can be anything, and
creates a car.
He creates a car, or, you know, a sword, or a catapult.
That's the best you could come up with for your first big appearance.
There's some really cool stuff that they could have gone into. I see what you're saying when you're saying like Ryan Reynolds, his stuff doesn't necessarily fit the character, and I think they have, for the voice acting now, a lot of those Justice League movies, they have Nathan Fillion doing Green Lantern.
Sorry, kid. Usually I like to mentor recruits for more than a couple of hours before they have to face Armageddon.
And I think, you know, if this would have been, you know, he's a little bit up there now, but, you know, a while back, I think he would have been a perfect choice to play Green Lantern.
Yeah, that's true.
But like you said, the off-world stuff I really enjoyed, but I don't like the villains. I don't like the bad guys, you know, Hector Hammond and Giant Cloud. It was just a waste. It's nothing. It's the hero that you have going up against those guys is just pointless. And those are basically my main gripes. I didn't hate the romantic story point, but this is also something that happens for me a lot because, like, I have the comic book knowledge. I have the history in my head, so I know that these two people have dated on and off for a really long time, and they're meeting up again in this movie, so like it worked more for me because like I fill in the backstory for myself. But yeah, someone watching that doesn't necessarily know all the story points, I can see how that whole romance doesn't really make sense. I never liked the suit. I like the suit designs for the alien characters. I like the way Kilowog's suit and Tomar Ray, all those characters, I like the way their suits look, but I just hated like all the lines and the stuff in the Green Lantern suit. I hated the mask.
Oh yeah, that looks really bad.
Like the weird how his pupils change color. Like, I think you could have just taken them out and just given them wide eyes like the comic book. I feel like I listed a bunch of stuff, but then I can say like, I don't hate the movie, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm not too much of a fan of.
This movie technically like got a profit. The budget was $200 million and it got $220 million. People say it's like a failure, and I'm like, I mean, yes, it obviously didn't do well, but it still got a $20 million profit. That's not obviously Endgame level,
right?
But like, I mean, it's technically successful on that standpoint.
Well, what they say is that profit, its budget, you have to double it at least because you have to add in for marketing and stuff like that. All that stuff's not in the technical budget for a movie. Studios spend more for that. So I could see how people would say, so I can see how people would say like, oh yeah, it's a failure because it didn't make back double what it costs to make.
You look at Rotten Tomatoes, noisy, overproduced, and thinly written, Green Lantern squanders an impressive budget and a decades of comic mythology at a 26%. Like, Metacritic is 39 out of 100. To me, it's like, I wouldn't recommend this movie to anybody to watch, but I wouldn't say like you need to hate on this movie just automatically.
Right, yeah.
Like, funnily enough, Reynolds did get an award for this. He got Best Superhero at the People's Choice Awards over Captain America, Thor, Professor X, and Mystique, which actually, to me, given how this movie was hated by so many and those movies coming out that year, honestly, for me, this is obviously not an Oscar-winning movie by any things, but that's actually wild at this point looking back. back.
You know, it doesn't shock me because when you think about it, now, if you would say that Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern would beat out Captain America or Thor, no way. But those first two movies weren't as well received as later movies. People weren't that excited about Captain America or Thor when they first came out. It wasn't until after Avengers that people started to get excited about those characters. And once they put them in that team up movie, I think that it has more to do with Ryan Reynolds than Green Lantern. This was peak Ryan Reynolds' time. You know, he was in all these comedies and rom-coms and different things like that. You put him in a superhero movie and no one knew who James McAvoy was and no one knew who Jennifer Lawrence was back then. And Chris Hemsworth, same. No one knew who these people were. Chris Evans had done a lot more stuff than the other people, but I think it just came down to Ryan Reynolds rather than his performance as a superhero.
That's true. Going forward, what are your thoughts on this film technically being part of the Arrowverse? I don't know if you watched that one episode that like basically showed all the shared universes, but it's technically part of that. And then also I've been like reading rumors, trust it or not, that he's thinking about, because the Snyder Cut is happening, how he is going to be the Snyder version of Hal Jordan again. Geez. I'm not sure how accurate this is because it's from people who say, oh, my inside source, whatever. If those rumors ended up to be true, what would you think?
I personally wouldn't like it. I think give somebody else a chance. You had your chance, and nothing against Ryan Reynolds, but you know, you're doing good with your whole Deadpool thing. Give somebody else a chance. I doubt there's not a single part of me that thinks that Zack Snyder would want to cast Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, especially not again. I think it would muddy things up. I think that it just wouldn't make sense for the world that he built. Honestly, I think that he would probably bring in a Jon Stewart or a Kyle Rayner before he brought in a Hal Jordan. The Arrowverse, I think, started off really strong and then just kind of whatever. I mean, they have access to the multiverse, you know, and technically everything's a part of that show. I mean, they brought Ezra Miller's Flash onto an episode. So, you know, that whatever. Everything that was ever DC is technically a part of the Arrowverse now, I guess.
Yeah, and we technically have a Jon Stewart now.
Oh, yeah, John Stewart Diggle. As far as the Snyderverse, I don't think so. I think that's just someone wrote an article or someone said something and then it got blown up. But I would need Ryan Reynolds to put on his Twitter or Instagram or something, hi, I'm back, I'm playing Green Lantern again, and him like shaking hands with Zack Snyder in a picture or something for me to actually believe that would happen.
Because if it was just like Ryan Reynolds just putting it out, I would almost think it's like a troll anyway.
Right, yeah.
So I guess then, just as a quick tangent, given that one scene in the Justice League cut where like the Green Lantern thing like goes off, who do you think that was going to?
Well, I mean, that was, you know, ancient days, so that could have been going to anybody.
Or who do you think the concentration, like you said, like possibly you think he may bring in Jon Stewart, or do you think he would bring in Hal Jordan just with a different actor? Like, which one do you think is the best thing for Zack Snyder?
I think the best thing for Zack Snyder to bring in, because he's a guy who can work in a quote-unquote established universe. He's got a Batman that's been around for 20 years. So I think that he should bring in Jon Stewart. Personally, I think that you can have a Hal Jordan and you can have Hal Jordan off at whatever Green Lantern sector it is, 28 something, I think. I don't know, I'm not, but you know, Hal Jordan could be out there somewhere, but have Jon Stewart be the current Green Lantern that answers this Justice League's call.
Yeah.
And it'll separate from the 2011 movie. We got a new Green Lantern here, and he can say like, yeah, Hal Jordan's around. All the other guys are around, but they're off fighting something else on the other part of the galaxy. Who knows? Jon Stewart's the one that answers the call to the Justice League. And I think that would be good. I think that would bring in, you know, the animated fans. I think that adds some more diversity. That's who I think he should go with.
Yeah, I think so too. Or somebody who has kind of a more of a grittier background. Like, I mean, he's from like Detroit. He's obviously a Marine veteran, and he has a much more Zack Snyder feel that would work in the universe that he's made. Because like it or not, obviously Zack Snyder's view of the Justice League, which is honestly accurate, is kind of a darker type of look. Yeah. And I think somebody with a story that comes from, like, obviously Detroit gets had a very tough past and everything. There's a lot of potential there that could be put into a decent movie, because I think the Snyderverse takes relatively, I don't know if they establish a date offhand of when the films take place, but it's for the most part present
modern day,
unquote. If you could honestly say like he was born in maybe the 70s, and obviously there's growing up in that time, there's like obviously a lot of racial tension, especially in Detroit, and that can bring a really good story into a character, and I think that would work.
I agree.
Now, I was a big fan of James Lib's show Inside the Actor's Studio. For those who don't know, at the end of every episode, he would ask a list of 10 questions that was originated by the French television personality Bernard Pivot on his show Apostrophes after the procès.
post questionnaire. And so to honor his memory, I'm going to continue that. Now, my questions aren't the exact same, twist them a little bit so you get to know a little bit of my guests at the end of each episode. And some of them are a little bit fun. So let's get started. Coronavirus aside, how often do you watch movies at the theater?
I would have to say I would go at least every 2 weeks to the movies.
How often do you watch movies at home?
Shoot, with streaming, every day. There's a lot of TV shows that I watch, which I said is movie quality, but I'll put a movie on all the time. I don't even watch cable anymore.
So who, actor, director, will make you watch a film no matter what?
Edgar Wright. I love his movies, and he doesn't stick to a specific genre. He'll have a movie like Scott Pilgrim, and he'll have a movie like Baby Driver. And so there's something I can find, and someone says, oh, Edgar Wright directing this flick? All right, I'll watch it.
Do you prefer digital or hard copy movies?
Hard copy, because when Skynet takes over and the internet is done and trying to blow us all up, I can at least still pop the Blu-ray in.
What movie-related profession would you like to attempt if you could?
I would love to be a voiceover actor. I don't think I have a movie quality face. I think I pass by voice acting though.
What is your favorite movie or movie genre?
Ooh, man. I'm just gonna go with, God, I don't want to give a classic guy answer and say something like action, but I'll just go with action because I love them all.
What is your least favorite movie or movie genre?
I hate the movie spoofs, like Date Movie, or I don't even know what they're called. I hate those so much.
Best Batman actor?
Are we talking voice actor? Are we talking actor?
I would say your interpretation of Batman in film.
Okay, then I'm going to go with Kevin Conroy.
Is it biopic or biopic?
It's biopic.
And last question, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear said to you when you arrive at the pearly gate?
Good job.
No, that's a fair answer. That's the end of the episode. Mikey, thanks for coming on. I definitely appreciate having this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me, sir.
I learned some stuff about you and also about some film things I didn't know. So if anyone wants to reach out to you and discuss comics, movies, whatever, how can they do that?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Both of those are the same. It's just my name, at Mikey, Mikey, then my last name, Hidalgo, Hidalgo.
All right, yeah, thanks again, and we'll talk soon, probably within our group, about movies in general.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Right. So what did you think of the movie? Did you hate it or like it as much as we did?
What is your favorite Ryan Reynolds movie?
Let me know. Hit me up on social media. The Formal Review is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The URL is all the same. It's at The Formal Review. Please also subscribe to the podcast on your favorite service. It is on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and really, honestly, anywhere you can find podcasts. Also, I'm always wanting to grow and improve, so feel free to leave a review on your favorite service. I see the numbers, and I do this for you all, and I want to keep it entertaining. I really appreciate everyone supporting me by listening and talking about movies with me online. For those who have contributed financially, I really thank you for supporting me in that way. For those who want to financially contribute, please go to anchor.fm/the_formal_review and click support this podcast. And I thank you very much in advance, and any donation is appreciated. Thank you all for tuning in once again, and until next time, well, I won't say it to movies, but be safe, wash your hands, and take care, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Formal Review. We hope you'll join us again.